advocates whisper in the hall, where justice wears a mask and truth begins to fall. Every thread they pull, every lie they weave, in the courtroom's dance, who's left to believe? Oh, the devil's in the details, hiding in plain sight, innocent until the gavel steals the light. True crime echoes through the hollow night, fighting injustice with no end. The devil's in the details, hiding in plain sight, innocent until the gavel steals the light. True crime echoes through the hollow night, fighting injustice with no end in sight. A photograph fades where the truth once stood, blurred lines between the bad and the good. The scales they tilt with every silver tongue, while the broken cry for a song unsung. Black robes sway like shadows on the wall, one wrong word and the mighty fall. Who's a sinner? Who's a saint? The jury's out, but the verdict's faint. Oh, the devil's in the details, hiding in plain sight, innocent until the gavel steals the light. True crime echoes through the hollow night, fighting injustice with no end. The devil's in the details, hiding in plain sight, innocent until the gavel steals the light. True crime echoes through the hollow night, fighting injustice with no end in sight.
Ladies and gentlemen, do you want to know why I'm here today? It's not because I want to give you a pep talk or because I want to make you feel good about yourselves. No, I'm here to tell you the truth.
Wow, I did it again. Put my backstage people up on screen. Can you hear me right now? I think you can hear me. I just want to make sure that we're live because apparently I'm a goofball. I had like 12. My mind is really, really scattered, people. I've got a lot of things. I got a lot of irons in the fire, as if covering 5 cases isn't enough. And with Luigi Mangione in trial right now for suppression hearings, and then all of the action going on with the Idaho 4 public records chase, which is getting crazy. And then today, just hours ago, I finished recording a big video, a 2-hour video with the custody queens and Ron, their appellate attorney. By the way, if you're following the Idaho 4 case still, you don't want to miss tomorrow's live at 6 p.m. Instead of doing our normal live like we're doing now, we're going to actually do a premiere of the custody queens and I and their appellate attorney, Ron, talking about that video footage that Jules obtained from the Moscow Police Department. And does it change anything? We have a group of lawyers talking about what they see. Here's the great thing. While the custody queens are certified family law specialists and family law, and so is their appellate attorney, Ron. Even though it's family law, as Ron pointed out, procedural law is the same. The same laws governing evidence is the same in the family law area as it is in criminal law. Evidence, the rules of evidence are pretty much the same. In addition, when Ron is in the courthouse talking about an appeal, he's in there sitting with criminal appeals that are happening at the same time, waiting for his turn. So he hears lots of criminal appeals. He knows the thing. So when Ron's talking to us on that special tomorrow, from a lawyer's perspective about appeals and appeals options that may or may not be available to Brian Koberger, if you're interested in hearing about those things, you do not want to miss. You do not want to miss that one. Really, really interesting stuff of what they have to say about the video footage, about my letter campaign. You wait till you hear what they have to say about the letter campaign. Big stuff. You don't want to miss tomorrow's show, 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Unfortunately, to my panelists, they're just going to have to take a back seat. I'm so sorry, guys, but the premiere, it was just the best time to work out for us. And considering we always go live at that time, it just worked out for all of us. So anyways, let's bring the panel guests up. Let's talk to the audience. Actually, let's talk to the audience before I bring my panel guests up. They can hold for just a little bit. By the way, at the very start of the show, I saw we're already getting a bunch of new members. So I'm seeing that on screen. Amanda, by the way, it does a lot of the graphics, all that cool shit behind me. Look at that. Look at how badass that is. Again, that's Amanda B. The logo is designed for her. A lot of our graphics are designed for her. It's fantastic stuff. Essie's in the house. Robin's backstage. We've got 1-1 backstage, our NYPD kind of advisor or consultant. Not advisor. Advisor suggests that he's advising us. I think it's more consultant. I keep getting it messed up how we want to refer to him, but NYPD's in the house. We've got Joe from State of the Deep, who's probably coming in a little bit late. He told me he had an errand he had to run, but he's going to try to make it here. Diana Draper checking in. Teresa 8793. Thank you so much. One of our new members that signed up here, Sherry Basalto, 5884, becoming a new member. Thank you so much for that. I appreciate it. There's lots and lots of members only content for $2.99. So hopefully you'll find that your $3 was worth it. There's plenty of stuff out there. Plus you get to get previews of anything that I put out, like the Custody Queens thing. I think maybe because it's premiere, you won't see that one. But normally when I preload something, members get to take a look at it first. So those are some of the perks on that as well. Who else do we have? Extraterrestrial Highway. Hey, left my DNA. Oh, thank you very much. T Coon, welcome as well. Who else do we have? And again, remind me where you're coming from sometimes. I'd love to see that. Sinful Bitch 420 as well. Thank you as well for being in the house. Regular coming into the show. Joanna 7891. Lynn Davinaugh H7P. Tweedledum, that's a great name. I love it. Monica Williams 1841. Becca 1019. All of these names are just flying through. Cats Mojo, regular in the house. Thank you so much. Looking for some new names. Just want to do some shout outs, some people when we get started. Rhonda the She Devil, the wife that's backstage and in the other room. Grammy T13 as a kind of a very frequent flyer. So thank you so much for being here again tonight. And who else do we have? Anybody new? I know I saw other people. Troubled Ocean again from the Florida, the other coast of the United States. You open your peepers as well. Fantastic. Edrilly, well done, DA. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. I'm assuming you're talking about our letter campaign. Avery Snyder 7665. Hey Den, what was this? Hey Den, just back in time from Waffle House. Nice. I could go for a waffle. I haven't had a waffle in a long time. Penny and so many people that we Penny regular on the show as well. Poetic Justice. I'm just looking through here. I just want to get some shout outs from people. I know I saw something. Sonora Wazowski. Where are those extra members? I saw members at the start. Was that a Poetic Justice new member? Thank you so much. Appreciate that very much. Christine Hurd. A bunch of names. Okay, we're good to go. Let's bring our panelists up on stage. Get your fingers out of your nose, guys. You're coming up. You're coming live. All right, so there you go. This time, 1-1 couldn't preempt me in the middle of my thing. Well, you know what's funny? Every time he joins and I'm already going in a monologue, he pops up on my screen in the middle of my monologue. So this time he loads in early, so I don't do that, and I put Robin on the screen instead. So I can't win. I'm apparently going to preempt myself every single time. How are you guys doing tonight?
We're good. We're good. How are you? Exciting day.
I'm busier than the proverbial one-legged man in an ass-kicking contest. Like I just can't. I don't even. I'm missing text messages. I'm missing sleep. I'm missing everything right now because I'm just a little overloaded. Mostly because that letter campaign that we started has really taken off. It's generating hatred. And love at the same time. New creators are mentioning us. New creators are shitting on us. So it's an interesting time. It was the best of times. It was the worst of times. That's the way I'm experiencing this right now. So we're getting a little bit of good and bad, but mostly good, right? Mostly good.
Yeah, sleep is overrated. You don't need sleep.
Yeah, you never sleep, man. I kid you not. We'll get into. This is going to be a loose format tonight. So, by the way, I do want to invite guests to come up tonight for sure. So, let me make sure you have the link in the chat in case you want to come up. We would like to hear from you and give us a question. Try to state your question quickly, and then hang out for a few follow-up questions from our panelists as our panelist answers your question, and then we'll move on and talk more about it. So it looks like one of my things did post, but some of this, I guess we're streaming on multiple services and some of them didn't like that link, but I think most of you got that. In addition, if you haven't seen or heard, I'm sure you've heard, we filed a request for the Idaho State Attorney General to consider opening up a criminal investigation into the investigation of Brian Kohberger. We listed a bunch of reasons why we believe that exculpatory evidence has been found now, and that we question now the details, and in the interest of public trust in our legal system, we would like some transparency to understand how this happened. And so we did that, and that's generating a lot. Let me remove that. Let me add this. That's generating a lot of interest. Again, when I announced the campaign, we had a couple $100 in the fund. We've jumped up to $1,500. More money keeps rolling in. And this is used for filing certified letters to of the agencies so far. We've sent certified letters to Moscow Police Department, Idaho State Police, Pullman, City of Pullman, Washington State University, Whitman County, the FBI, Federal Bureau of Investigations, the Department of the Army. We've just filed a lot of records, and we keep them coming. Every single day. My goal is every single day to wake up and go to the post office with some new filing that I'm putting out there for public records. They're probably going to get annoyed. They're like, oh my God, got another letter from F and Lee. Today, by the way, when I went to the post office, I want to tell you, I got 2 letters today that if you're a Brian Kohberger, let me not say Brian Kohberger fan. If you're an Idaho 4 follower, that's the way better way to say it. Because again, regardless of how you feel about Brian Kohberger's guilt or innocence, it's not about, I mean, in some ways it could be about the man, but it's really about the case. We're following the case and whether or not Brian Kohberger is the guy that did it. If you're following that case, I think you're going to like the 2 letters that we wrote today. There's big ones. I'm going to let one at some point talk a little bit about why that letter got done. One pushed me and said, you need to file this letter on our behalf as a team for this specific thing. So we'll let you talk about that in a minute. I also wrote another letter that might surprise a lot of you. It's a letter that I myself thought I would never do this, but I changed my mind. And I'll tell you why, and you guys can second guess me if I'm wrong, but I'll tell you why when we get there. And I'm glad that people are saying, hey, we just want justice. Yes, exactly. And there's some creators out there that are talking shit about us for doing this and trying to mock us and act like we're pieces of shit for suggesting that the case might not have been fair. And really their answer literally is, well, he pled guilty, so why are we still talking about it? They're going to be so sick of your dick swagger. Yeah.
I couldn't help it. I had to put that up there.
True. Yeah, that's probably too. So they're probably going to get tired of it. I mean, hopefully they'll understand what it is. This is just here's the thing. If you did nothing wrong, you shouldn't be worried about some scrutiny and some questions, and just answer the questions and whatever. But usually the people who get most spun up, it seems like, are the ones that are like, they're afraid you're going to actually uncover something. So hopefully they just take it for what it is, and leave it at that. So like I said, we kind of got a loose format. Again, once more, I do encourage you to take the microphone. There is, the topics for today are going to be, again, Idaho 4, the latest letters that were filed. I would like to read those letters to you. One of those letters is pretty lengthy. Actually, both of them are I don't do things short order. But anyways, I want to also talk again about what the custody queens and I talked about tonight without teasing it or without telling you too much, because I'd rather you hear it with your own ears. and we'll talk about that letter that 1-1 encouraged, and Robin, really, to be fair, Robin and 1-1 were both like, yeah, you need to file that. And it's kind of funny because I will say when we get into that I was hesitant to do so. You know how I feel about enhanced videos, enhanced audios and stuff like that. And so I was hesitant, but you guys made such a strong case that there's no question whatsoever that has meat to it. I got thinking about it and I'm like, well, first of all, we'll just ask. Why not just ask? Like, it doesn't hurt to ask. And I think there's a legitimate question to be made for it. So we'll ask. Now, what was I going to say? There was something I was going to say on my mind. Got my mind on my money and my money on my mind. I don't know. So let's talk about the letter campaign one more time in case you don't know what's happening. Jules from, I'll try to be relatively brief. Jules with True Crime Reactions, a YouTuber, much bigger channel than mine, was fighting the good fight, putting in public records requests. She beat me to the punch. I hadn't even gotten to the point of asking for those things. I started with different areas. I think all of us have a different passion for where we think the hole would be. Fortunately, I think Jules got the creme de la creme video, which is video footage of 1112 King's balcony, looking out into the intersection of Queen and King Road with 1122 behind us. And the video footage that plays for that hour seems to indicate sounds consistent with terror and screams of pain over the course of 35 or so minutes. It is horrific for anybody who imagines that might actually possibly be true. It's been out there rumored in the wind for a long time that the murders happened earlier than the girls said it did at 4 o'clock in the morning. I've always been hesitant to jump on that thing when everybody wants to do the revised timelines and say it happened hours early. I've always been slow to doing that because I just didn't think there was enough there. I know that there has been enhanced audios out there that people are like, look, if you pull down all these sounds and you pull up this sound in the background, you can hear screaming. And I've known that stuff's out there, but I've always been hesitant. But when Jules obtained the actual footage from the 1112 King Road residence, the screams were unmistakable. It was unaltered. It was unmistakable. And there was no tomfoolery with the editing. And I went, holy shit, that's it. I've changed my mind about what time that murder may have happened. I think any reasonable person would listen to that and think, did that murder just happen at 2:30 in the morning and not at 4 in the morning? Furthermore, in case you're not paying attention to what that means, Brian Koberger, per the prosecution's statement, was in Pullman, Washington at the time that you hear these screams. So if that indeed was the sound of murder, Brian Koberger could not have been there, which means he could not have done it. So that changes everything. We talked again with the custody queens about what does that mean? Does that mean Brian Koberger's guilty plea could be vacated because he literally could not have been there when the murders happened? And that's kind of like one of the when we talk about what options are available after your appeals window wears off, one of the options that's available, and I've always said this, is if it was ever proven that you could not have physically done it because you couldn't have been there, that's how you vacate a plea deal. You can't plead guilty to something they know you couldn't have done. So if he couldn't have been in the house, then his plea deal goes out the window. And no matter how much, a lot of people, sadly, there's a lot of people in America that if he didn't do it, whatever, they'd still want him to stay in prison because he pled guilty. That you pled guilty, so you must have done it. And they would hate to see him walk on what they would consider a technicality. The technicality, and I have to understand in this case, would be he wasn't there. So shame on you if you're one of the people that wishes he stays in jail if he wasn't there. But anyways, whatever the case may be, we're going to talk a little bit about that. So in light of that, 1-1, I guess here we are. Yeah. Did you want to tell people what led you to say, DA, your next letter this morning needs to be on this topic? You want to explain that to us?
Sure. So it's always been a big, there's many stuff in this case. One of the big things, obviously, was the state when what they were saying was suspect vehicle 1, right? So there was always the argument back and forth. I got a few things I can read real quick just to give a good explanation. It's not too long. But basically, just to summarize real quick and not be extensive, the main point of so what's the big deal of who is suspect vehicle 1? Why that's a big deal? Because they placed that supposed car at different locations, and if they are wrong about, well, this is BK's car, Koberger's car at this certain spot, or this is his car at that certain spot, that is, again, that goes along with what Lee was just saying. The same thing as looking at the time period of 2:30, 2:30 to 3:30, when it pretty much sounds like multiple people are being mauled to death or stabbed or attacked. It's another. It's goes along those lines. If we have proof from video surveillance, from video cameras, not a theory, that BK's car was at a certain, completely different location at certain times, then that's clear. That's proof as anything that he was not there, or he was not. He was, he couldn't have been there at this time, or couldn't have been there at that time. So it's a really pivotal thing, and where this really became such a huge thing was actually going back. Lee has covered this. We've mentioned a few times, was the Franks hearing. So they had a Franks hearing that was about this, and I'll mention it. I'll mention it briefly while I read this to explain. So in the Frank, they had a Franks hearing about it, and what Ann Taylor. Now I don't want to attack Ann Taylor. I don't want to attack the defense, her defense. I don't know, what info she had available to her. I know, there was like terabytes of info. Did she not have this info, to her? I'm not sure. I don't know how we could know that. But what I can say is the basic thing in that Franks hearing, she argued that the cell phone cast data basically proves that Koberger, was not at certain locations. And she was arguing that the state's the state's proclamation that suspect vehicle 1 that they were naming is not Koberger's car. Now, in the history of like cell phone cast data, it's known to be sometimes unreliable, and I guess it depends on the judge or how they argue. Hitler basically wasn't buying it. Now, what they should have done from this info that we basically have available, but I'll explain further as we get there. And so Ann Taylor, what she should have argued that the suspect vehicle 1 is not Koberger's, because it's certain locations and certain video surveillance and pictures that we have of the car that they were claiming. This vehicle was basically supposedly analyzed by some FBI specialist, where they narrowed down that the car was a 2014 to 2016 Hyundai Elantra. Well, it's very convenient because basically the car has very specific fog lamps. So this vehicle that they were saying that was at certain locations, it has a fog lamp, and Brian Koberger has a 2015 Hyundai Elantra. He does not have these. He doesn't have these fog lamps. So that's basically in a nutshell, and should have argued that the suspect vehicle 1 is not. It's not Brian Koberger's car, because he doesn't have it's not like a theory. It's not a question. You see the car, you see the picture. Well, this car has fog lamps. His car does not. So it's clearly not his car. She should have argued that, and then maybe use the cell phone cast data as a backup argument. And I don't see how Hitler, I don't see he would have been forced to make a different decision. It's like saying, it's like saying, well, that car is red. No, it's not. It's black. Look, it's black. It doesn't matter what, here it is. Here's the proof. So I'll just read this real quick, and then I guess Lee will read the letter. So the basic thing is we're basically talking about the surveillance video we have of WSU 244 is the name of the video, the file. So investigators were given access to video footage on Washington State University, WSU campus located in Pullman, Washington. A review of that video indicated that at approximately 2:44 a.m. on November 13th, 2022, a white sedan, which was consistent with the description of the white Elantra, known as suspect vehicle 1, was observed on WSU surveillance cameras traveling north on Southeast Nevada Street at Northeast Stadium Way. At approximately 2:53 a.m., a white sedan, which is consistent with the description of the white Elantra known as suspect vehicle 1, was observed traveling southeast on Nevada Street in Pullman, Washington, towards SR 270. SR 270 connects Pullman, Washington to Moscow, Idaho. This camera footage from Pullman, Washington was provided to the same FBI forensic examiner. The forensic examiner identified the vehicle observed in Pullman, Washington as being a 2014 to 2016 Hyundai Elantra, which is wrong because of the car's fog lamps, which is consistent of a Hyundai Elantra of 2011 to 2013, which is clearly not Koberger's car, which was a 2015. Certain law enforcement conclusions in the Idaho 4 homicide investigation, specifically those involving the identification of a white Hyundai Elantra believed to be connected to Brian Koberger, are incorrect or misleading. So from the WSU surveillance footage, the 2:44 WSU vehicle, it's not Koberger's car. The car seen at 2:44 a.m. has fog lamps and features consistent with a 2011 to 2013 Hyundai Elantra, not a 2015 Elantra like Koberger's. There are differences in fog lamp shape, bumper reflectors, and headlight alignment that makes misidentification impossible. That misidentification undermines later conclusions about vehicle movement. Which is the whole point, which is why this is such a big deal. If the 2:44 a.m. car is not Koberger's, then the 2:53 a.m. WSU car, also used in the probable cause narrative, may not be his either. This could unravel the timeline used by investigators to place a vehicle matching Koberger's en route to Moscow. The defense failed to identify this key piece of evidence. But basically, it's, like I was describing before, it basically explains ineffective assistance of counsel. Defense attorney Ann Taylor should have used the fog lamp evidence during the Franks hearing, which challenges whether police made false statements to obtain warrants. The defense relied only on cell tower cast data, missing a powerful opportunity. The defense argued the 2:44 car could not be Koberger's because cast data suggested he was home until 2:45. The argument ignored the stronger fog lamp evidence. Now, the 2:53 a.m. WSU video is missing from releases. New WSU footage releases included the 2:44 a.m. video and post 5 a.m. footage, but did not include the critical 2:53 a.m. clip, which they suggest could confirm whether that car also has fog lamps, potentially proving it is not Koberger's. If the 2:53 car is not Koberger's, then later sightings, for example, 3:02 a.m. at Floyd's Cannabis Shop, also fall apart. This would basically collapse the whole main vehicle-based narrative of the case. This misidentification could justify post-conviction relief or a new trial. There are other cases where minor investigative errors led to reversals. In this case, the fog lamp issue is far more significant and could invalidate the foundation of the state's evidence regarding the Elantra. So basic breakdown of the car. After reviewing, so the car has fog lamps, unlike Koberger's 2015 Elantra, which his does not. The fog lamp style, headlight alignment, again, the bumper reflectors, to argue the car matches a 2011 to 2013 Elantra. The FBI vehicle identification specialist should have easily seen these differences. Koberger's Elantra has no fog lamps and features match the 2015 body style. No rear bumper reflectors in the 2:44 car, consistent with the 2011 to 2013, not a 2014 to 2016 Elantra. Fog lamp shape also has a teardrop design, which matches 2011 to 2013 models exactly. The FBI expert falsely identified the car as 2014 to 2016, which is impossible. Frank's hearing criticism. The defense allegedly missed crucial video-based discrepancies, and the misidentification constitutes false statements used to obtain warrants. Conclusion, basically, the 2:53 a.m. video importance. If the 2:44 car and 2:53 a.m. car are the same, likely according to distance and time, and the 2:44 car has fog lamps, then the 2:53 car cannot be Koberger's. This would undermine the later 302 sighting near Floyd's cannabis shop again. This would collapse the entire vehicle timeline theory used by the state. The defense, prosecution, and investigators failed to acknowledge the fog lamp discrepancy. This is probably one of the strongest examples of to show ineffective assistance of counsel. So obtaining the 2:53 a.m. WSU video is critical. If the fog lamps appear on that car, this case basically should be over. Misidentification could justify post-conviction relief or a new trial.
All right, thank you for doing that. You kind of stole some of my thunder in the letter because a lot of that's in the letter, but the letter I think is still worth reading because let me explain what
I just wanted to explain it. That's all.
Yeah. And I think let me explain. What you're talking about is you're talking about two issues. I'm trying to summarize this for people. You're talking about two issues, of which I want to explain to people. The letter's only going to address one. So let me explain what the two issues are. Issue number one is, was the vehicle falsely identified? And can we prove that it was falsely identified? And if it was, issue number two was, why did Ann Taylor miss that in the Franks hearing and not bring it up? Because had that been brought up in the Franks hearing and discussed, it could have been the end of the probable cause affidavit. They had no warrant. They didn't have the probable basis to arrest him in the first place. So it could have been a game changer. Did she miss that? Does that now mean that there was ineffective counsel because she missed it, one of the most crucial pieces of information in the early stages of the investigation? So it's kind of a two-part thing. So we have to understand is the way we're attacking this as a team is I decided, I guess, to go after first. Let's prove the first part. Was the car falsely identified? If it was, then we'll deal with the second part, which is, did Ann Taylor miss it? And what does that mean? So let me. I know that a lot of what he said is going to come up in this letter, but I want you to hear the letter anyways, because a lot of you are paying for now. You guys are donating to the GoFundMe thing, which is helping pay for these letters. So I think that somebody has a right to hear these letters. And I think that some of you would rather not read it. You want to just hear it. So I'm going to read it to you. Some of you might take a snooze fest. So grab a hot cocoa, as Jason Estes would say, a cup of coffee, get a warm blanket, pull up the fire, and listen to this bedtime story as I tell you letter number one. Now, by the way, this version very, very similar to this letter, but slightly tweaked for each agency. I'm going to read you the letter that went to the Pullman Police Department. However, a similar letter went to Washington State University and their surveillance cameras. A similar letter went to Moscow Police Department in the footage that they obtained from the campus security and their records. Another one went to the FBI and requesting their copy of the files and the investigation that they did of those files. And another one went to, I feel like there was another one. So one went to Pullman, one went to WSU, one went to Moscow. Went to Idaho State Police, and one went to the FBI. So 5 letters essentially asking for the same thing. Why do we do that? Why do you spend the money asking for the same thing from 5 different agencies? Well, you'd be surprised, in my opinion, how many times one agency forgot to redact something or didn't put something in. So when you ask for multiple agencies, you might find somebody who was like, oh, you know what? Idaho didn't leave this part out, but Pullman did, or Moscow did. So you ask for it from multiple people to make sure this story is consistent. All right. So I'm gonna now read you a bedtime story, ladies and gentlemen. Let's get into the letter. I'll put it on screen, I hope. Let's see. Add this to screen. Okay. All right. So this is the letter that I dropped off today in various forms. I will remove the comments so that you don't have it over your thing. To the records custodian of Pullman. Oh, before I forget, because I'm almost going to forget. Today today when I went to the post office, I got 3 receipts of certified letters to Moscow Police Department received by Sabrina fuck, I forgot her last name. Anyways, a very specific person has to sign for the certified letter. So 3 of my letters have reached the Damasco Police Department and they've signed for it. And I've got confirmation that they got it. I got their cards back verifying that they've received it. So we are getting receipts back. I do have a website tracking the table of all letters going out and all responses coming back. I'm listing that as a response. The response is they've received it. So now we know they can't pretend like they didn't have it. They should be required to respond to it in some way. Even if they respond by sending me the middle finger on a piece of paper, they have to respond to it in some way. So we'll see what the response is. But we know that they got it because we've got signed names of people who picked up that thing, and there's no question they didn't lose the thing. All right. Now let's go to the letter that deals with the issue that one's talking about. Again, we're not going after at this moment. We're not going after asking about whether or not it was missed in the Franks hearing or anything like that. We're simply trying to identify the missing footage of 2:53 a.m. that you were talking about, 1-1, as well as did they misidentify the vehicle and how did they identify it? Here it goes, reading time. Public Records Custodian, Pullman Police Department. Regarding public records request, WSU surveillance footage and vehicle identification review, 11/13/2022 from 2:40 a.m. to 3:05 a.m. To the Public Records Offices under the Washington Public Records Act, RCW 4256, I request all records, videos, reports, and communications related to the Washington State University street camera or surveillance footage taken on November 13th, 2022 between 2:40 a.m. and 3:05 a.m. I believe this footage remains preserved and contains potential evidentiary value related to the homicide investigation in Moscow, Idaho, and the associated suspect vehicle referred to as Suspect Vehicle 1, allegedly linked to former WSU student Brian Koberger. Background. It is my understanding that the FBI investigators were granted access to WSU campus surveillance footage from the early morning of November 13, 2022. According to investigative summaries, at approximately 2:44 a.m., a white sedan consistent with the vehicle described as Suspect Vehicle 1 was captured traveling north on Southeast Nevada Street on Northeast Stadium Way. A still image from this footage, publicly available, this is, by the way, publicly available from their own source, so this is official sources, and so it's not me just saying, hey, I posted it to my Google Drive. This is from their source. A still image from the footage publicly available through WSUNextQuest.com documents is labeled Traffic External Cam Stadium in Nevada North to 150 Cam 1 AVI file. Here's a still from that image. Here you see in this green box that they've highlighted, that front vehicle is the white Elantra, which they claim is Suspect Vehicle 1 with very distinctive fog lights in the picture. So continuing my background. Additionally, investigators reported that at approximately 2:53 a.m., a white sedan, again described as consistent with Suspect Vehicle 1, was seen traveling southeast on Nevada Street towards SR 270. To my knowledge, the video showing the 2:53 a.m. movement has never been publicly released publicly. Both camera sequences, 2:44 a.m. and approximately 2:53 a.m., were reportedly provided to an FBI forensic examiner who later concluded that the vehicle in those videos was consistent with a 2014 to 2016 Hyundai Elantra associated with Brian Koberger. Basis for our concern. The 2:44 a.m. footage shows fog lamps that appear consistent with a 2011 to 2013 Hyundai Elantra, not a 2014 to 2016 model. Since Brian Koberger's vehicle is a 2015 Hyundai Elantra, the fog lamp configuration raises questions about whether the vehicle shown at 2:44 a.m. was correctly identified as Suspect Vehicle 1. Furthermore, the 2:53 a.m. footage, which would allow comparisons and verification, has not been made publicly available despite being cited in investigative documentation. In the interest of public transparency and integrity of the investigation, I request the following records. 1, surveillance video, the full unedited street camera or surveillance footage covering 2:53 a.m. at plus or minus 1 minute. As 2:52 to 2:54 a.m. on Nevada Street in Pullman, Washington. That's the footage that we're saying is missing, the public hasn't seen. We're asking for that a minute before and a minute after and the entire minute of, so we can look at what happened during that period of time. Any videos capturing the same roadway within the overall time frame of 2:40 a.m. to 3:05 a.m. Metadata and index records. All metadata, indexing logs, file lists, or retention logs showing what camera recordings exist for that time period. So we want to know a list of all your files that you have during that time frame so that if we want to file another public records request, we can go after specific files. So they need to give us an index of what files exist so we can say, this is the file I'm interested, send me that one. All right, so communication reports. All communications, reports, emails, notes, or analysis involving WSU PD Pullman PD, Idaho State PD, or police, Moscow Police Department, or the FBI regarding the following: identification or evaluation of suspect vehicle 1, analysis of the vehicle observed at 2:44 a.m. and 2:53 a.m., any determination of whether the vehicle was a 2011 to 2013 or a 2014 to 2016 Hyundai Elantra, including the basis for that determination, any fog lamp analysis comparing those models' years, any assessment linking or not linking the vehicle to the footage to Brian Koberger. Request to withhold or restrict any communication in which the law enforcement agencies requested that WSU withhold, redact, restrict, or delay the release of the above referenced videos or records. What is that asking for? What it's saying is, if we really haven't seen the 253 footage, tell us why. Who told you not to release the 253 footage? And I'm asking for the records where you asked for anybody to withhold, redact, restrict, or delay the release of the 253 video, which may be able to be used as comparison to see whether that's the same car, both those things. By the way, a new member popped up on my screen. So thank you for becoming a member. I appreciate that support. And then we'll finish off with, if any portion of this request is denied or withheld, please cite the specific exemption under RCW 4256 and provide an exemption log. Thank you. And there we have it. So that letter, again, went out in different forms to Idaho State Police, Pullman Police, Washington State Campus, FBI, and Moscow PD. So 5 versions, very, very similar, with slight differences based on what I believe each agency might have had in their possession, including each one of them asking for me or asking for the records of their communication with the other agencies about it to see if those are consistent. And again, these are just questions. They're not allegations, they're questions. We believe there's reasons to believe that vehicle may have been falsely identified. And for the public interest, we want to make sure you correctly identified it. Because again, that was the basis of the probable cause affidavit that would let them go after and arrest Koberger because of all the things they said about the vehicle that was seen coming and going from the crime scene and all these different places. What if they were wrong about the car in the first place? Now, some of you say, who cares? He pled guilty. It's over. Well, because in America, we tend to overcharge people and tell them they'll never get away with it, that whatever, and then they have no chance. And then they plead guilty after you stacked on a bunch of evidence, and maybe the evidence was false in the very beginning. A lot of people. We had somebody on the other night that said they pled guilty to something they didn't do. For all the people out there who say people don't plead guilty to things they don't do, we literally had somebody on our show say, I pled guilty to something I didn't do, and I felt I was perjuring myself on the stand because I'm literally telling them I did something I didn't do, but I had to for the lesser plea. That happens all the time. But people don't think it does. All right. Let's get your thoughts and feedback, panel and guests, on what you thought about that letter before we move to the other one, because the other letter is so different. I want to kind of keep them isolated as 2 separate things. What do you guys think about the letter?
Well, I just think it's very important to get that angle in front of the right people. When, one had said to me, hey, you need to watch that video. We did. And I mean, just that fact alone, you can't be in 2 places at once. You just, as far as we know, it's not possible, even with technology and so forth. So
I want to riff on that for a second, Robin. I really think it's important what you just said, that you can't be in 2 places at once, because a lot of people are saying in the chat, well, if they're dead, DA, at 2:30 in the morning, how do you explain Xana ordering DoorDash? First of all, put on your critical thinking hats for a second. Put on your critical thinking hat for a second. There's evidence that there was a cleanup involved for 8 to 10 hours after the murders. If there were people cleaning up the crime scene and staging bodies to make it look like it was a different type of crime than it was, because maybe it was something much more horrific, and they'd staged the bodies afterwards, and then they can set an alibi with dead people's phones by ordering food. And by the way, it was contactless to the delivery. The food was just dropped off on the door. There's no evidence whatsoever Xana picked up that DoorDash delivery. So for those of you who aren't thinking it through, a text message from Xana on her phone, if she's dead, proves nothing. It's not proof of life. You think it's proof of life. It's not proof of life.
And I got two examples of that. I always forget names, so you guys can jump in. So you got the girl that went missing with with her boyfriend on that the camping trip or whatever. Remember the girl from Florida?
Gabby Petito.
Gabby Petito. Do you remember? We remember what the boyfriend did? He went on the phone, and I believe she was already dead. She was gone, and he was texting on her phone to, I believe, the mother or a relative,
Right.
and they picked up, right? I don't know. I don't remember how many times he texted, but they were
Yeah.
able to pick up. You know, when you talk to someone all the time, obviously it's probably easy with a family member, but if you have a friend or someone that you text all the time, you know, even though you're through a text, you know, you can pick up. You know, it's almost like a DNA kind of thing. People talk a certain way, you know, and I remember they were saying, like, it didn't sound like messages that she would write, so they thought something was off about it. And I believe there's probably a whole handful of cases. So
Yeah.
So again, just because you know, someone makes a phone call, or someone has phone activity on their phone, or it's the same thing with like computer use, all that.
Right.
You have to
Right.
you gotta be, just because someone has activity doesn't mean that it was them, you know.
Right. And you know, like you made a great example, right? Somebody who allegedly killed somebody and then using that person's phone to make it look like there's proof of life that they're still texting people. That is common to happen.
Right.
So all the people who think that because Xana ordered food, that means she's alive. It doesn't mean what you think it means. It doesn't mean that she's not alive. To be fair, it doesn't mean she's not alive. It's something to consider. What did she, you know, is that proof? It's not proof, but it's something to consider. But for Pete's sake, let's not say, oh, she had to be alive because she ordered food at whatever, or it showed that she was on TikTok. Same thing. The indication that it showed Xana was accessing TikTok at 4:12 in the morning, or whatever that timestamp was that Xana was seen accessing TikTok, is not proof of life. It just means that the phone may have accessed that service. We don't know who's operating the phone. So it's not saying what you think it is. It doesn't mean it's not what you think it is, but it also doesn't mean that you think it is. I did want to address real quick before getting this next thing about Birdie, because we didn't really explain that very well. Birdie and I used to do every single Monday, and we've been doing it for months, every single Monday together as part of that whole Manic Monday. Birdie and I kind of decided that maybe we'll switch to every other week thing, because he's got other things in the work. I've got other things in the work. We're really busy as well. And we're thinking that when we get together, it has been pretty much all Idaho 4. And so we're waiting for a few things to stack up. So all things considered, Birdie and I are in a good space. For anybody who thinks that there's some kind of parting of ways between Birdie and I, that's not what's happening. Birdie and I both kind of said, let's try to do like an every other week thing. So what happened was it was a simultaneous thing. Birdie had already been announcing for a week that he wasn't going to have any guests that week, on the week that I didn't show up this week, that he wasn't going to have any. That was step one. He had already announced he wasn't going to have any guests. On top of that, I had a big breaking news kind of thing. So I went with my breaking news in place of going with Birdie. So that's what happened this week. And I was going to announce to you guys officially that Birdie and I are probably going to do an every other week thing. So again, no bad blood going on, nothing crazy. Don't spin any weird shit out there in the ether about Birdie and I going separate ways kind of thing. We're in good shape, but Birdie and I are going to kind of leave more room for some other things that we're doing. And we've got a lot of irons in the fire. And so we're just going to try that a little bit. So I do appreciate all the people who like watching Birdie and I together. I think it's a really cool combination as well. And I'm looking forward to continuing that for going. Now, this other letter that I sent, and there's a part of me that really, really has reservations about telling you even about it. Like there's a part of me that doesn't even want to tell you I sent it. And the reason being is I generally believe in leaving victims alone, leaving survivors alone, leaving everybody alone at peace and not hounding them. I do not want to hound people. Having said that, somebody had recommended reaching out to Brian Kohberger in prison to let him know that people are actually asking for a criminal investigation into that case. And I was like, well, that's a good possibility. I mean, the guy literally was going into this field, so he might appreciate knowing what's happening. Maybe he won't give a shit, but I thought about that. And then someone said, does his family know that you're doing this? And I thought to myself, one thing that I always do is I always wait for everybody else to reach out. So I just decided to let the Kohberger family know what we're doing. Now, that is usually not my MO. I'm not pestering the family. I'm telling them what we're doing and giving them the opportunity. That's my perspective. I'm giving them the opportunity to know that somebody is actually thinking that the case didn't happen fairly. And yeah, Hemisphere will get you up here. Robin, make sure the link's sent out there for Hemisphere to come up.
Yep, will do.
So let me I appreciate that, Robin. So let me say again, with reservation, I hope that you do not perceive this as me hassling the Koberger family. It's giving them an opportunity that they can choose to not take if they don't want to. I've also decided, even though the Koberger's address is widely available through the documents that have been released in this case and various things, I decided I'm going to not show you their physical address because I don't want everybody and their dog bothering the family. I don't recommend anybody bother the family. I hope you will find my letter to be respectful. There's one caveat I wish I had said differently. One word in here. It's a word. One word I wish I had said differently. In it, I say I believe a certain thing. What I should have said is I have reason to believe. I would have preferred to use the word I have reason to believe, not I believe, because I'm open-minded. I'm very open-minded. So it could have happened this way. It could have happened that way. I have reason to believe it happened this way. It's different than this is what I think happened, right? Do you understand the difference between that? So when I say this is what I think happened, I wish I would have said I have reason to believe this is what happened. It's what it should have said. So that's the only part that I really am. All right, Hemisphere, hold tight. I'm just going to read this letter and then I'll bring you up. Dear Mrs. Koberger, my name is Lee Farrell. I am an independent researcher who focuses on constitutional issues, civil liberty violations, and matters involving. I'm not showing it on screen. Let me show it on screen so you can see it with your own eyes. Holy crap! Like I didn't do that. Add that to stage. Here we go. Dear Mr. Koberger, my name is Lee Farrell, and I'm an independent researcher who focuses on constitutional issues, civil liberty violations, and matters involving transparency and accountability in criminal investigations. I'm writing to you with the utmost respect and understanding the unimaginable stress and grief your family has endured. I want to state clearly at the outset that based on my review of the available evidence, procedural record, and investigative irregularities, and this is where I said I wish I would have said I have reason to believe. I believe your son, Brian is factually innocent of the crimes to which he pled guilty. I have reason to believe, I did put it there, I have reason to believe that he was pressured into accepting a plea agreement in order to avoid what appeared to be an overwhelmingly unfair, unconstitutional, potentially unwinnable fight against a prosecution that, in my assessment, was proceeding without critical safeguards to due process. Because of the number of concerns raised by the handling of Brian's case, I have formally requested that the Idaho Office of the Attorney General open a criminal investigation into the investigative conduct, evidence handling, and interagency coordination that led to his arrest and prosecution. I have reason to believe that multiple agencies or individuals may have engaged in conduct that constitutes criminal wrongdoing in the pursuit of Brian as a suspect. I am reaching out to you not to burden you further, but to extend an opportunity for you to communicate if you or members of your family would like to speak with someone who is actively working to bring transparency to what I believe was a deeply mishandled case. If you wish to discuss the situation, I can be reached at, and I left a redacted out number here. So it's on the actual letter, right? Or by mail at the address listed above. Additionally, and only if you feel comfortable doing so, you may consider encouraging Brian himself to contact me. If he has permitted visitors, I would make myself available at the earliest possible opportunity to meet with him in person to better understand what pressure he faced and to document any information that could be vital to ensuring accountability in the matter. I also want to express my heartfelt sympathy to you and your family. Regardless of the public perception, the weight you have been forced to carry is something few could comprehend. I recognize that this remains a painful and uncertain time for you all. However, I must emphasize that there is urgency in pressing these issues now. As you know, evidence can be lost, destroyed, and the window for holding agencies accountable for procedural violations grows narrower each day. If you choose to reach out, I will treat any communication with the highest level of confidentiality and respect, which means, by the way, I will not be reading their response back to me on air because I will respect their confidentiality and whatever, and will only be sharing anything that they might choose to do. And they may never choose to talk to me. I'll tell you one little story about this before I finish. If you choose to reach out, I will treat any communication with the highest level of confidentiality and respect. Thank you for taking the time to read this letter. I wish you peace and strength with your family and with serious respect. And there we have it. And by the way, I just gave you my personal phone number. How about that? What a dickhead. I guess I might have to block my phone number if assholes start calling me. But anyways, the point being, what I wanted to do is explain to you. In a case very much that feels like this, Kristen Smart I believe was her name, in California. There was a guy that was a I think it was a Cal Poly student that went missing, Kristen Smart. There was rumors that she had been murdered by a guy that was at a party. They never could prove it. It went as an unsolved case for the longest time. A podcaster just decided to pick it up and said, your own backyard. This happened in my own backyard. Every day I drive past that sign showing that we're still looking for Kristen. It reminds me that this is still unsolved. And so he started to ask questions. And the guy was, I want to say, he's more timid than me, which is weird because I'm pretty timid myself, but he's more timid than me, but he was a nice guy and he came across as a nice guy. And when he asked people questions, they talked to him because he was a nice guy and he showed respect. And the family, who had been done talking to the media. And let me tell you, this is what happens. The media is blinded. They have a narrative to say. And so a lot of times the families believe there's no reason to talk to the media. They've already decided what happened in this case. They're not interested in talking to the media. But this guy asked a lot of questions. And what happened was people kept telling the family, you might want to talk to this guy, Chris Lambert, who's researching your daughter's disappearance. The guy's making new inroads. He's talking to new people. He's a super nice guy. And the father, who literally said, I'm done talking to fucking people, he reached out to him and said, look, I want to hear what you have to say because you seem like you're a nice guy. And they broke that fucking case wide open. They broke it wide open. So if you don't know about the story of Your Own Backyard and Chris Lambert and how that case was done and how they put somebody in jail for murder, you need to watch that. What an amazing show that is. Yeah. Every bit of that show was just stunning to watch what one person being a pit bull can do to solve a 20-year-old.
Was that on Netflix? That was on Netflix, I think, right?
They had lots of specials about her. I don't know if they did a special on Chris Lambert's holding, but yeah. So anyways, that's been kind of like my inspiration. Like if I could ever do what a Chris Lambert did and solve something that hadn't been solved for 20 years, you feel like you can die at peace, that you've done something with your life, that you made a difference. So, all right, Hemisphere, man, I feel super bad. I almost forgot about you for a second after that long-winded diatribe. But let's bring Hemisphere up and let's see what he has to say to our panel or to me or whatever. And I'll unmute him and bring him up. Let's see. Are we fighting over the microphone? Unmuted. Okay. How you doing, Hemisphere?
How's it going, guys?
Good.
So I just
have you with us.
I'm doing great. I ever since this new footage came out, I've took my time today and really just hammered that 2:35 to 3:30 time frame, I think it was. And I was thinking the other day, I was like, well, I'd like to go back in time to Ada County and look in their docs about the timeline that they had for the girls. And it mentioned Dylan, Bethany, Kaylee, and Maddie was all at the house at the same time at 2 a.m.
Yeah.
I didn't know that about Dylan and Bethany. I forgot all about that. I was like, oh, okay, that's interesting. So it went on and said something about Ethan and Xana wasn't even at home at 2 a.m.
Right.
So I'm like, where's the timeline for Ethan and Xana then?
Yeah.
So I keep on reading that and said that all four of the girls was up in Kaylee and Maddie's room. And they was discussing whether or not they want to go back out for the grub truck to get something to snack on. And ultimately, they changed their mind. In that process of time, it mentioned that Dylan called the Uber guy at 2:10. Well, guess what time that all that started on that video?
Yeah, I think the video that we played starting at 2:25, I think.
Yeah, it was 2:25.
Yeah.
So as I was watching all this, and I'm noticing at 3:00, it all got quiet. And there's a guy that comes out of the darkness and goes into that building that 1112 is always filming. And right as soon as he goes in the building there, you see a light that comes over there where Jack D's apartment is. And I'm going, because I already know there's an alley that's right next to 1112 headed towards Jack D's apartment.
Yeah.
and there's a, I think there's a path or something. Is there a path or something that goes into that sorority house right across from 1122?
So, so right next to 1112, which is the two-story house that has the video camera on it, is a lower house that I think the address is 1118. And on the other side of 1118 is a walkway right directly from basically Jack DeCour's place into the yard of 1112. Sorry, 1122. So you literally could walk. And by the way, just coincidentally, it's off camera. Like there's no camera that shows that walkway that goes basically from Jack's house to the 1122 King Road residence. And the reason I bring that up is because, again, official records ruled out Jack DeCour because he was seen going back to his house and never seen leaving his house, and his phone was at his house the whole time. So therefore, they believe he was at the home the whole time. And as even Steve Gonzalez said, there is a way that if you want to play devil's advocate, essentially, there's a way that Jack DeCour could have left his house and gone to 1122 and not be on camera. And that is through that walkway that we just talked about.
Yeah. I just thought those singles events, how that all lined up, because right at 4 o'clock in their timeline is when the girls are starting to text each other and calling each other.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, how is that odd if this timeline is not the true timeline and it's actually 3 a.m. instead of the 4 a.m. when the girls start texting and going, what the hell? You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, and I get what you mean. And a lot of things have to be reevaluated now that you have that time that we're hearing the screams, because now you have to reevaluate the Banfield boys running across the field at like 3:15 or 3:13 in the morning. You have to evaluate a lot of other things. Like now all of a sudden the activity that you see might make more sense if something had just happened right at that point. Go ahead.
And, one of the things you're bringing up, that time period there, like what Lee just said. Now you go back and you look at some of the facts that we know that are indisputable, just the info we have. So we get this video audio, right, from 2:30 to 3:30. Remember Kaylee and Maddie's phone go silent. What was it, 2:56, I believe?
Yeah,
So I know there's multiple. There's a 17-minute call to Jack. I know there's all kinds of texts and calls and like 9-10 different calls. Maybe Kaylee had used Maddie's phone because Jack wasn't answering Kaylee's phone. Whatever it was, there's a whole bunch of calls, right, to Jack. So whatever the issue was, whatever it is that they couldn't find Murphy. They were calling, maybe it was about Murphy, whatever it is, whatever the issue is. Bottom line is that their phone goes silent at 2:56. I believe that's the time. Yeah. So that if you watch, this audio video and you hear all these, you hear these screams, you hear all this stuff going on, and whether Kaylee and Maddie were assaulted or killed in that time period, something went on during that period, and it would coincide. Well, look, their phones went dark. It's not definitive proof, but it does match. It does make you, it makes you think, oh, listen to all these screams, listen to all this, something is going on, right? And then their phones go blank.
I want to bring up something.
I might be interpreting it wrong, because it seems like to me, in my humble opinion, I'm just pure speculating all this. Okay, I'm just saying what's lining up, and it's just this is what it's looking like for me, and I might be wrong. And everybody,
Look, I think the questions you're asking are the questions everybody should be asking. What if the prosecution's timeline was fundamentally flawed from the beginning? What if they just decided that it had to have happened at this point and they made all the evidence fit? That's something that happens in America more than people realize. So
when you look at the hearing that Hipper had with the parents, and Steve G said it, well, get away from the gag order. There shouldn't be no gag order because our kids was gagged.
Yeah,
and
right. Multiple people gagged. Yeah.
I mean, it sounded like to me that those kids was tortured
Yeah.
And let me and so I want to stop right there for a second. I want to tell you something, and I'm going to put my graphic warning on. This is going to be graphic, and it's going to be I hate to do this, but I can't not say it anymore. As I was playing out my mind on how this could happen, I'm trying to put my banner on that puts my parental advisory almost on Joe's face. Which, by the way, welcome Joe to State of the Deep. Just joined us late in the show, and
Hi,
we're in the middle of a
Joe.
guest on here.
I'm ready for some titillating and tantalizing commentary with the
Cacophony of
crime
cavalcade
channel on the
conversation.
internet. Okay, I'll be quiet now.
Listen, I want to posit. I want to posit some really difficult things to think about. If what we heard was a series of people being tortured and killed one by one over a course of 40 minutes, and that many of us have talked about the crime scene doesn't look the way it should. There should be blood all over those rooms. Where's all the blood? Why is there such a lack of blood? We also heard that there was a cleanup effort done, and we also heard that the killer may have gone into the bathroom and cleaned up because there was evidence that there was cleanup in the bathroom. The bathroom looks spotless. What if each individual was brought into the shower and killed in the shower so that the blood would drain down the tub, and that explains why there's not a whole bunch of blood? And then they were staged back in their bedrooms to make it look like a killer came in and killed them in their sleep, when the actual killing could have happened one by one in the bathroom and then cleaned up with bleach in the bathroom after the blood went down the drain. And I know that's morbid, but would it not make some sense why we don't see the amount of blood that we should see, why there was evidence of a cleanup, why someone said they smelled bleach, why they said the killer may have gone to the bathroom and cleaned up? What if the killings actually happened in the bathroom and they were tied up and then they were staged, and it took 8 hours or whatever, or 10 hours to stage that crime afterwards to make it look like it was something that it wasn't, because they wanted to hide what really happened?
DA 1-1, Robin, hello. I have one thing to add to that. Me and 1-1 are gonna have to go to battle over this. Because if the official video was manipulated, which some people tend to think it has been, it is possible that there was a gunshot or more than one gunshot, and it was edited out or reduced to sound to a point where it sounds like something else. Now, I understand nobody called 911 in the area, but we don't really know that for sure.
Yeah,
because it
Right.
could have been people that called 911, and that would go against the narrative if that was released, the official narrative. And
Right.
so I'm just saying, if the video was manipulated and the audio from the video, which to be honest, it sounds like it was, because there's a lot of like there's that voice effect that seems to be put on voices, like when you have somebody doing an interview and they're blacked out and they change their voice so it sounds like warbled. That's what some of the background voices sound like on that. And again, this would also explain why that picture that we saw, for example, that was allegedly Xana's room, that did not look like someone who was stabbed 55 times or however many times Xana was supposedly stabbed. Yes, there was some blood, but that didn't appear to me to be the amount of blood. Well, there was blood. All right, there was blood in the mattresses. Where are the pictures of that?
Yeah, but I want to reiterate something you said, Joe, because to play devil's advocate, I also didn't tend to think that there was a gun involved, but to play devil's advocates, just like what you said, we're asking, like you said, 1-1, how would people not call in the gunshot? Well, here's the question: how did the people not call in all those screams we heard?
Yeah,
right. The same logic of why didn't they call in the gunshot might be the same. Why didn't anybody call in all the screaming that was happening? So, I don't know. I don't know. Is it possible? I think it's possible to consider. Everything is on the table at this point, because I don't think, what I do think is I've always said this. What I do think is what they told us happened is not what happened. That I'm certain of. What they told us happened didn't happen that way. Now,
and if there's corruption involved, which it just seems to me like on some level there is, at the very least, there's some corruption involved, then they don't want, people could have called in about screams. People could have called in about a loud bang or a few loud bangs or whatever, but that would refute the official story.
We all know that they don't like making reports. There's all kinds of good times that there's calls, but No report taken. No report taken. What's the point of going out to the call if you're not going to actually take a report?
And
Maybe
yeah,
one could tell us about that. What is the reasoning behind that? That you go somewhere and don't take a report about why someone called you out?
Well,
Is
I
there a
mean,
scenario where
well,
that is appropriate? Or
yeah, well, I mean, there would be there, you know, here we call we have we get an so every call that comes in, we get an ICAD number. That's what it's called. What you know, the job is
okay,
assigned an ICAD number. So I assume it's a similar thing throughout the country. You know, the 911 operator, they get the job and then they assign it out to the correct precinct or a town or county or whatnot, and it's going to have a certain number that's associated with it.
okay,
Not every job, not every thing that we necessarily go to requires a report. I mean,
okay.
so if you go, so for instance, you get a call to go for a noise complaint. It's either you're either going to address it with some kind of summons, or you're going to give a warning. If you don't give a summons, I mean, there's the only thing that would be, documented would be you'd have that job number, and the officer probably has some kind of recording book or memo book that they responded and
Mhm.
what their final determination was, but there wouldn't necessarily be a report if there's no crime, there's no alleged crime. You wouldn't have a report. And the other thing
Okay.
too that I wanted to address, and Lee kind of said it too. What I was going to say, yes, in my experience, here in New York City, we have we get 911 calls all the time of shots fired and different things, and we do get a lot of 911 calls. So could they be possibly hidden and they're not showing them to us? But at the same time, I mean, like you hear that 2:30 to 3:30 video audio, how, why are there no 911 calls, during that, from that? I mean,
Yeah.
people are around. I mean, there's that. I mean, even the people that they had some kind of party or whatever was going on at 1112, right behind where the camera is. I mean, there are people who are there. They have two windows that face 1122. I'm sure they saw something that went on. But it's really, really odd that there's no, and then as like a devil's advocate to that, which also doesn't make sense. We've all seen, we've all seen it. I think it came out, whatever, 2.5 years ago, 2 years ago. All the different jobs of the officers responding to noise complaint, right? At 1122 with Kaylee outside. And I think we've seen 2 or 3 different noise complaint body camera jobs, right at the location. So if people are calling 911 about a loud, just a loud music, a loud party, how could no one call 911 from a gunshot or from people making blood quenching screams? It's really odd.
Yeah, and I have more to say about that. I want to make sure, Hemisphere, did you have any other question you wanted to follow up on, by the way, before
I just want to make note of that. Another thing too, just a lot of cliffhangers that leaves questions for me.
Yeah.
Like, who was that contact that Dylan put in her phone at 3 a.m.?
Right. I'd like to know that.
Where's the official timeline for Ethan in Xana?
Right. Other than Dylan saying everybody was back at the house at 2 a.m.
And then I can't help but, excuse the pun, to go devil's advocate and go, there's something about Dylan. Yeah. I am very, very suspicious about her, because I brought that up because that's that was in the document, like I said earlier, was she called Uber, but ultimately they changed her mind.
Yeah. Yeah.
Knowing everything I know, and I hate to do it, could that be the phone call that sent out for, hey, they're at home.
Right.
Y'all come take care of your business.
Yep.
Yeah, and hemisphere. So the biggest thing to me too, that besides the waiting whatever 8, 9, 10 hours, I guess 10 hours if we go by like the 2:30 timeline, and the change in story and all the other nonsense with Dylan. But the big thing that strikes me is highly odd with her. JJ could address this more because I know he studied behavior and psychological behavior or whatever, so he could attest to this when I'm done. A big thing about figuring out like what went on and what happened is analyzing the behavior of people. And the big thing that struck a nerve has struck a nerve to me, and I don't know the answer. Maybe we'll never know. Is if Dylan she's so afraid and she's calling all these people, right? Okay, so she didn't call 911 right away, but she's she has to get a hold of Bethany and she's got to do all this stuff, and right. To me, a normal like a teenager or even someone older, maybe even someone even an adult or whatnot. If you were you just had some kind of catastrophic big emotional thing that happened to you, I would think, right? So she's on her phone, she's doing all this stuff, texting everyone, calling everyone, whatever, right? She's on Snapchat or going on her phone. Why is there no text and why is there no phone call to Quinn, her boyfriend? To me, that is very, very striking. Now, was Quinn? Yep. I know there's a whole big thing. Was Quinn there? Was he not there? I don't know. I know there's a whole big rabbit hole with that. But the fact that she doesn't text or call, and again, this is a topic. This is a big topic that Lee mentions all the time. A lot of times with some of these things, it's not what we hear and what we see. It's what is not there, what we don't hear, what we don't see. So the fact that she doesn't text and she doesn't call Quinn is very striking to me. So.
Yeah, because somebody could be sleeping through all that.
Can I?
What we heard on the camera.
Yeah, go ahead, Robin.
Sorry. I'd like to address this question. Something really cool is happening in the chat. Okay. Now, this Truth Exposed believes that Brian is guilty, and please, people, they've been very, very respectful. I've been chatting back and forth. This is what we want. Just because they have a different perspective, that's great. This has been very respectful. Now we're talking here a little bit about he believes, I'm not sure if you're a man or woman, he or she believes that Brian used the butt end of the knife, or the alleged killer, whoever they are. I don't believe so, because if you have that much blood on your hand, even though it supposedly is a K-bar knife and it has the hilt and everything, with how slick everything is, you are not going to be able to properly hold on to that knife in order to use it to repeatedly bludgeon someone. Sorry, again, parental advisory, explicit content.
Yeah.
It's just not going to happen. But I just want to express that this is what we're here for, folks. The different perspectives, respectfully. So thank you, Truth Exposed, for doing that respectfully. I really appreciate it and value your opinion.
I wanted to,
go ahead, JJ.
I wanted to comment on some generalities related to the people that believe that Kohberger did it and this is how he did it and he did it at this time.
One moment. I just want to, somebody was asking how they call in. So when you're giving your answer, I just want people to know there's a link again. If you want to come up on the panel, you want to talk to the panel, take that link and it'll put you backstage and I'll address you when it comes time to bring you up.
All right. This is for all the people who are the guilters and he did it and this is the official narrative and he bludgeoned and he stabbed them all to death in a short amount of time and took off. People that are mass killers or serial killers or people that commit violent crimes, especially murder, they tend to graduate as they go. So their crimes get worse as they go, because to get the thrill, they need more violence, more, gore, more gruesomeness in their crimes, or more people at once as they go. There's no other crimes tied to Brian Kohberger. He does not have any history of violent crime. Okay. To think, and people say, well, look, he was studying forensic science and criminology and he was planning the perfect crime. Brutally murdering people is very different than reading about things in a book.
Yeah.
You have to be a certain type of person. You have to be a psychopath to do that. And he doesn't have any history of that in his past. And there was no linking of him to any other violent crimes or disappearances of other people. So it's just like with the Tyler Robinson case. Oh, that's an easy shot. Every guy who goes to the range and shoots says that's an easy shot. It's an easy shot at the range. I shot almost a bullseye from 150 yards with a bolt action rifle, and I'm not even that experienced with a bolt action rifle. Point is, it's very different than shooting to kill a person. So studying about crime and carrying out a brutal, violent crime like a professional hitman are very different things. So people, everybody's entitled to their opinion, but you have to consider that stuff. 100% of forensic psychologists and investigators would repeat the exact thing I just said. It's not my theory.
Right. And I want to add to that. Even the military experienced this problem. Soldiers have a high degree of misses because they don't fundamentally want to fire on another human being. People, even soldiers trained in war, have a hard time fundamentally when it comes to pulling the trigger and killing another human being. They have a high miss rate because fundamentally people, they just don't want to do it. And then, so they end up kind of like looking away or whatever they can. Like, it takes a certain type of person, just like you said, Joe, it takes a certain kind of person to actually kill somebody and knowingly do that. So
and to do it like a hitman and carry it out with very little evidence in an extremely short amount of time. And I have one more thing for DA, and then I'll shut up and I'll keep my mouth shut. You watch that video of the officer going to the Queen Road Apartments, and somebody mentioned a gunshot or gunshots. Yeah. And the cop is just like, oh, okay, thanks. And he took off. Right. Well, that speaks to your theory, DA, that if they already know what happened and they're just doing this stuff as a cursory thing, we have to do our interviews, we have to go around and talk to people. That would be an explanation as to why they didn't follow up on that kind of reporting.
Right. All right. Well, we've got another guest backstage, and it gets a little packed when we have too many. Hemisphere, I'm going to say goodnight to you for now and bring up a new guest. Thank you for coming on and engaging the panel, asking questions. Love to have you on again if you're willing to do that. If you have any last minute thoughts or questions, do so now, and we'll say goodnight on that part.
No, just thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak out, because what I found was kind of profound, I thought. So thanks for listening to me and hearing me out on that.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for being part of the show and contributing to something. I love that you did that. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you.
All right, let's bring up Ide Redmond for some questions, comments. We never know what you're going to get. So, like, why do I have that nervous, like, I feel like this is going to go south right now? But we'll see. I have no idea. I haven't watched any comments, whatever. So let's roll the dice. We'll do it live. All right. So are you there for our guest?
Hey, y'all.
Hello.
Hello.
Welcome.
Hello.
Thank you. Thank you. May I discuss the photo that Bertie discovered the other night?
Sure.
I mean the outline of the body?
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. When I saw that, I literally almost fell out of my chair, because Huda London has been showing that for nearly a year from the cell phones, some of the cell phones from the grub truck, the kids at the grub truck, and the band field, one of the boys at the band field, that they
Right.
were watching. They were watching this. They were cheering. And
Right.
all of the stuff that she has brought up about these kids paying $6 to this Venmo
Yeah.
on that night at a certain time, and nobody's talking about it. And I think that it's so important, because if this is all true, we have a ton of witnesses that have kept their mouth closed for all this time.
I would go
And
further
I
than
just
that.
am curious as to why nobody's talking about this.
Well, I would go further than that, because to suggest, and I'm not saying you're wrong, so don't get this twisted. To suggest that
I can't hear y'all all of a sudden.
Oh, well, the panelists can hear me, right? Is that?
Yeah,
I can hear Lee.
Yeah.
That's weird. Why she can hear you guys but can't hear me?
I could hear you.
That's so
Yeah,
weird.
we can hear you.
Well, I'm gonna
No,
try to.
I can't hear Lee. I see his mouth moving, but I cannot hear him.
That's the weirdest glitch right there I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Well, let her.
Can you hear the rest of us?
I can hear the rest of you, but I can't hear Lee. I can see his mouth moving, but I can't hear him. So
you sure you're not just tuning him out?
Yeah,
they've got it. Yeah, she's like, I'm tuning that asshole out. I don't want to hear anything that guy has to say. All right, look, I'm going to try to answer something that I was trying to explain. What
I don't know. I don't hear anything he's saying, and it's really frustrating because I'm really curious as to what he has to say.
All right, for a moment, I'm going to mute our guest because she can't hear me, so she just walks on me when I try to explain this. So I'm going to try to get this point out, and then I'll unmute her, and maybe we can repeat it to her, one of you guys. What bothers me fundamentally is to suggest that people were literally paying to watch those murders and cheering at the Grubs truck says a really difficult thing. That means we have a bunch of fucking sociopaths that can sit there and watch people get murdered and think it was fucking a pay-per-view event and enjoy watching it. I couldn't enjoy watching somebody get killed. I would vomit. I couldn't watch somebody actually get murdered in front of me. What kind of human beings, if that's the case, are literally sitting around watching and celebrating brutal murder? So that's
Can y'all hear me now?
That bothers
Avery,
me.
one moment. He's explaining. Avery, I just looked at Avery. I'm so sorry. He'll be right with you. Okay.
Yeah. Sorry.
Okay.
I'm done. Go ahead and tell her what I said, I guess.
Go ahead, one more. I'm sorry. I'm dealing with something here.
Oh, so Lee, so he basically said that everyone, if people were actually paying $6 to watch people get brutally murdered, that we have a bunch of, there's basically a bunch of sociopaths running around, that it would, it would make him vomit, and it's just, horrific that if that's actually the case that happened.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I just wish somebody would look into it further. I guess that's what I'm asking. Why is nobody as upset about this as I am?
Well,
we are.
Let me mute her again so that she doesn't walk on me. Let me. I don't know whether to keep her on because the communication thing is going to be difficult. We don't want to have to keep repeating everything I'm saying, but
yeah.
I don't know how to do that. I wonder if she's off stage, if she can hear me talk. Anyways, here's the thing. I don't think.
Okay. Well.
Who unmuted her?
This has been really weird because I didn't hear anything that he said, and I really wanted to.
All right.
You just don't want to hear what DA has to say.
Tell her I'm going to remove her from screen.
No, I do so want to hear what he has to say.
It's the FBI. They hacked us.
Yeah, it's the FBI. He's going to remove you a moment so that we can clear up the glitch. Okay. Don't take offense to that. There's something going on.
Okay.
All right. Hopefully, again, I don't know if somebody was unmuting her while in the middle of my monologue, but all of a sudden, hey, I can't hear you. And I'm like, I know, I got you muted. But so what I was going to say about this is, to her question, why isn't anybody talking about it? I think people are talking about it. I think that they are, again, as more and more evidence comes out that says that, again, the the comment from Steve Gonzalez, which was a closed door meeting behind, it was in the judge's chambers on the whole, basically the judge telling Steve he needs to shut the hell up about things or he's going to ruin this trial. We're not going to have a trial because you're prejudicing the jury. We'll never be able to see the trial if you don't shut up. And that's where Steve Gonzalez said something to the effect, and it was just kind of recently released. I hate the word gag order on here, considering that some of the victims, not just Kaylee, were gagged. So it is coming out there in the consciousness now that one, maybe there was more than one person gagged. He already said Kaylee had marks on her face as if somebody had put something on her mouth, either tied something right and created ligature marks or held her down really hard and created. So Steve already said that about Kaylee. Now he's saying it happened to multiple people. So again, this narrative that he came in and stabbed a bunch of sleeping people is changing rapidly. If people were tied up, gagged, and then stabbed, potentially one by one over a course of 40 minutes, as the audio seems to indicate. And again, were they brought into a bathroom? Were they killed one by one and then staged later, make it look like it was a random act of violence by an incel who came into the house? Was that all horseshit? Did somebody come in and plant the knife sheath on the first pass of the house? We have to ask that question. Was it staged to look like it was just a quick murder and somebody planted a piece of evidence to pin it on a guy to make it look like it was something that it wasn't? All those questions have to be done. And yes, now that we're getting more videos that are like you said, for those who don't know what Birdie was showing, and Birdie Bombshells, what he was showing was, and it's clever work. Like us YouTube community does crazy shit. Sometimes I'm a little bit nervous about what they do, and sometimes I'm like, holy shit, like you can't run shit past a YouTuber or some of these community. But an officer is taking cell phone shots of the crime scene, and they've got a bunch of shit redacted in the picture that you can't see what he's taking pictures of. But what they forgot to do is redact the little tiny thumbnail on the officer's phone in the corner that shows the previous picture shot. Can you believe that shit? That's how fucking tight people are looking at these things, right? So they literally was zoomed in on the cell phone of the officer, showing the last image taken preview in the lower corner, right, and blew it up to see what was there. Now, normally I'm gun shy about that stuff, but what you're saying, what she's saying is, it looks like if you run your imagination through it, and Birdie did a whole outline in the thing so you can see the shape. When he does that, of course, it's interjecting in your mind what the shape looks like. So I'm not busting Birdie's nuts, but these are things I tend not to do, because again, when you have to draw a line around it and say, look, now it looks like a body. Yeah, he even drew like arms and stuff like that. When you do that, of course, you're going to see what you just drew. So I'm hesitant. I'm not saying Birdie's wrong, but to this person's question, we certainly can have those conversations, and I don't think people are ignoring it. And in fact, the proof in the pudding is I just talked about it. So hopefully they can hear us. Maybe if they're in the chat, they can say whether they can hear us now that they've gotten removed from stage. Maybe it was something weird there. But what do you guys think about that?
Well, the thing is, I watched Birdie's video. I saw the picture, and it looked pretty convincing to me, of a man with his hands in front of him, hands tied together, and it looked like a big dude.
Yeah.
And so here's the thing. You have Steve G saying that, right? And we have these pictures that may or may not be of a guy with his hands tied. But it seems like, since all these other things that we were told were not accurate from the beginning, it would make sense that if they're going to totally change the narrative, because maybe they don't want that kind of information to get out for whatever reason, then they can change everything that we've been told, right? Could be completely horseshit. And so it brings up another question, which is this. Now, this is breaking news. This is a thread I think that needs to be pulled in light of what has come out recently, the new video footage of 1112 and some other things, right, that have come to light. Steve G's interview with the judge. The kids running from the band field, if that aligns with the time of approximately when we heard all the horrific screams and struggle and all that on the recent footage, then we need to follow up on who were those kids? Why were they dismissed as suspects so quickly? Because if they're lying about a bunch of shit, and the school might be trying to cover up shit, then and the feds and whoever else, that's an important thread. Because if those people running, now that we are suspecting a different timeline of events, if that aligns with the events that we heard on that new footage, then that thread needs to be pulled. Why weren't those kids? Who were they? Why weren't they heavily investigated. They dismissed that like within 2 days of the footage coming out.
Even the Banfield, the actual Banfield stop, the kids that were stopped from the, in the Banfield, they got a ticket or whatever. As far as I know, I don't think they were interviewed about any of them, about anything. There's no document or anything that shows any interview with them.
Yeah.
They also need to be interviewed. They came from there too.
And one you told me, I think it was yesterday, that it was around 3 a.m. that those kids were running.
Yes, it was.
Right. Well, that perfectly would align with if the crimes were committed between, say, 2:25 and 3 a.m. and a group of like 3 or 4 people are running from that exact area, towards Sigma Chi. And I'm not even suggesting it's got to be related to Sigma Chi, but I mean, a lot of times the rumors that come out early on shouldn't be dismissed so easily. And
I have to say, like, I just got sent an image. I got sent an image, and I don't want to show it because I haven't spent time with it, and I could probably find it. But anyways, somebody sent an image right before I went live and said, "I think you need to talk about this tonight." I went through that video footage that Jules received. And I was looking closely at the moment that the person goes up to the dumpster after all those screams and looks into the dumpster, and they froze it on a frame that it says, if you look, you can see there's a glint off of what looks like a knife in the person's hand as they're walking up to the dumpster. So I'm like, okay, I don't want to run with that kind of shit live. I have to look at it and really analyze it, make sure that glint wasn't added into the photo by somebody who's clever or whatever. But the point being is that, now that we have reason to re-scrutinize the time frame, and that's exactly what's going to happen. Now everybody's going to be like, wait a minute, what is exactly going on during that time frame? Let's recreate, let's go back, let's rerun who was going across the field at what time, who was doing what at what time. Is this picture showing what we think it is, now that we know that this is like, all of that stuff now has to be re-examined. And I bet you it tells a totally better story than the one we've been told. But so it's funny because normally I like to spend about an hour on the one topic. Here we are, Idaho 4, going 1 hour and 37 minutes, and we still haven't touched anything else. Typical night lately. And I guess that's part of what happens when you're doing the letter writing campaign that we're doing and whatever. I did want to tease a couple things. I want to talk about briefly, and I realize the audience probably isn't here for other cases at the moment, so I'll make it relatively brief so we don't lose half the people when we switch topics. But I will talk briefly about Luigi Mangioni's suppression hearings that are still ongoing. But I wanted to tease this on screen. Let me see if I can put this up real quick. Remove. Oh no, I want to leave that on. I want to leave that up. Stop screen share and go add entire screen. This one. Share. All right. So this is a teaser. Tomorrow night at this regular time, 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, instead of doing the panel, and I apologize to my guests, and I think I buried Joe below the banner there somewhere. Anyways, and also behind the comment that's pinned on screen. There you go. There's Joe. Anyways, the point being is that I've got a big 2-hour interview. Not interview, that's not the right word, a panel discussion, a 2-hour panel discussion with the custody queens, Sam and Kristen, and their appellate attorney, Ron, from their office. While they're certified family law specialists from California, they have a huge interest in true crime in these cases. Again, as Ron pointed out, as an appellate attorney, the process of the law is still the same. Rules of discovery is still the same. Rules of evidence is still the same. The appeals process is still the same. And so it's a fascinating conversation. And if you are all tuning in here because you can't get enough of really kind of rethinking what happened that night, wait till you listen to the discussion that we have with these attorneys when I said, hey, watch this video footage, look at the letter I just filed to the Attorney General. Do you think it's a case? And what does that mean for the appeals? So we had 3 lawyers talking about it, one of them appeals specialist, and you're going to really enjoy that conversation, I believe. So check in tomorrow for that. All right. What else do we have? By the way, one more thing I want to say about this. Joe, is the book that you picked up, is it Framed by John Grisham?
Yes.
Yeah. And so, and that is, let me show this real quick.
And that's what I sent you, that little part I highlighted was from the prologue of the book.
Right. Okay, that's what I wanted to tell you. So listen to this. This is a teaser. This is a teaser for tomorrow night's show, the premiere. Now, what premiere means, if you don't know, is it's going to be a pre-recorded video. But I myself is two things. Okay, so yeah, I and myself, I got schizophrenia, are going to be there. Also Sam, also Christian, and also Ron are going to be in the chat. We'll be engaging you in the chat. But at one point I said, hey, look, I've had multiple people tell me, DA, stop everything you're doing and read this book, Framed. It's going to be a huge thing to inform this case in Idaho 4. Joe picked up a copy of this book and said, holy shit, DA, look at these 2 paragraphs. I read these 2 paragraphs to the custody queens and Ron, and I'll save for you to watch tomorrow's premiere on their reaction to it. But I want you to see, as Joe said, this is from the prologue. It's basically hinting at some of the things you're going to see come up in this book. So let me pull this up on screen for you in a second here. And
they basically took 20 cases. John Grisham partnered with Jim McCloskey, who runs a foundation, that deals with representing and helping people that were wrongfully convicted or framed or whatever. And they each picked 10 cases that they would, in the book, that they would address. And I'm only in the first chapter. I literally just bought the book. But
right.
I sent DA I highlighted 2 paragraphs and texted it to DA.
Now, so keep in mind, this book's written by people who have extreme law experience. They know the law. They have an interest in law. It answers some of those things that people have been saying. Well, people don't plead guilty to things they didn't do, you idiot. Of course, Brian Koberger did it. He pled guilty. Are you a moron? Like, this case is over. He pled guilty. Those kind of comments that I deal with all the freaking time from people in the heckling section. But I want to read these 2 paragraphs verbatim to you and show you on screen, because it was so, we asked questions with the custody queens about what if there was corruption in the law enforcement department. What if they were narrow-sighted? What if once they decided who the guy was, that's all they did is fit the narrative to fit into, this is the guy who did it. So now we're going to make everything fit, and we're going to ignore anything that doesn't fit the narrative, because that's how you convict somebody, right? So let me read this for you and put it on screen. And I'll try to blow it up a little bit as I can. I guess that's probably often the real killers were under often the real killers were under the nose of the police from the outset of the crime. And in 2 cases, they were the star witnesses for the prosecution. The killers were star witnesses for the prosecution. DNA played an important role in several cases, but not in most. Perjury by police and civilian witnesses was pervasive in those stories. The convictions were not caused by unintentional mistakes by law enforcement or misidentification by well-meaning eyewitnesses or honest but erroneous forensic analysis. No, they were rooted in law enforcement misconduct and chicanery, men and women hell-bent on clearing cases and gaining a conviction through a wide variety of illicit means, subordination to perjury, secret deals with criminals in exchange for their fabricated testimony, coercing witnesses into false testimony or suspects to falsely confess, use of discredited or inept forensic analysis, suppression of exculpatory evidence from the defense, or other acts that obstructed justice and resulted in the ruination of innocent lives to the relief of the actual perpetrators. And I think that is one of those things you have to ask yourself. That entire book is about those kind of things. Did that just happen in this case? That real killers have been even helped. Real killers even may have helped put somebody away that didn't do it, worked with police to get a conviction on somebody who didn't do it, working with them because of the desire to close a case and and solve it, and even working with the criminals to ruin innocent lives and let the real perpetrators walk free. You have to ask yourself, there's books written on it, and Joe's reading this right now. So I thought that was timely for this discussion. What do you guys thought, Robin and 1-1? I know Joe's already seen it. What do you guys think?
Yeah, it sounds like this case exactly. There's a whole bunch of stuff. Yeah, so a whole bunch of stuff you just read seems very, very, very similar to what is going on.
Yeah, it's fabricated testimony, coercing witnesses into false testimony. Doesn't it? I've always said Molly McMichaels was going to be brought into and coerced into false testimony. Yeah, I got to go to that case in the Idaho 4 murders because now I saw Brian Koberger there. Like literally, it was almost like she was saying, now I have to go say that I saw Brian Koberger there. She didn't see him there. The testimony shows that she didn't see him there. And then she's like, I'm friends with Bill Thompson, and I have to go there and say that I saw Brian Koberger there. Were people coerced into giving false testimony to try to get a conviction that they were hell bent to get that conviction? Hell or high water, and there wasn't going to be a fair trial, and they were going to make it end the way that they did. There's another person, S.C. Michael says it's a great book. I read it a while back. So yeah, I hear nothing but great things about that. All right, let's wrap this up in 10 minutes by saying a few things about the Luigi Mangione thing. We won't spend a lot of time on it because it wouldn't do justice to the subject matter. In a surprise move in the suppression hearings, I thought it was a surprise move. Karen Agnifilo has requested the sealing of the body-worn cameras from the police officers so that they will not be shown to a potential jury. And I was kind of surprised by that moment, right? Because fundamentally, you would think the defense's move is to say it was an illegal arrest, and therefore I want it all on camera, and I want the jury to see that it was an illegal arrest. And yet, Karen Agnifilo made the motion that it would be prejudicial to her client for the jury to see the body-worn camera. Now, the only thing I can think of that the reason why she's saying so is because, unfortunately, in my opinion, we have a lot of uneducated Americans who think if they see Luigi Mangione say, yeah, I'm Mark Rosario and all these things, they'll be like, yep, that's proof right there. And they will not understand the nuances of the whole Miranda rights and when it had to happen or whatever. All they'll hear is Mark Rosario or Luigi Mangione from his own mouth saying, yeah, I did this or whatever. He didn't confess to anything on that, to be fair. He didn't confess to anything, but it could be prejudicial because what they could be arguing is Karen would rather explain to people how Miranda rights work rather than having to have you see the video first and then explain to you how Miranda rights work. There's no reason to see the video probably from her perspective. We can just explain what Miranda rights were and what really happened. So it was a weird move for Karen Agnifilo, I thought, in my opinion. I didn't watch it. I just saw the headlines on it, and I was like, well, that was unexpected. So I would have to go back and look at it. Unfortunately, my brain and my time has, I spent hours with the custody queens today. Like I said, I spent hours getting the video ready, getting it set up for the premiere. By the way, the premiere is actually scheduled. So I want to put that link in there in case you guys have the desire to sign up ahead of time and let us know that you're going to be there. Again, Kristen and Sam and Ron from the custody queens team. Ron's not one of the queens, although they tease that they do have a picture of him in a tiara or something like that. So the point being is that that show is going to happen tomorrow at this regular time. Do you guys have any thoughts on any of the cases? Did you want to mention anything briefly about Charlie Kirk or?
Well, the Luigi case, what you were just saying, the thing that's striking to me, because this judge from this case seems to be pretty fair, have a good head on his shoulders, and the argument that the cops saying that, oh, they thought he had a bomb in his bag or whatever. I mean, I can't see the judge buying that at all.
Right.
So
I don't think so either. And I will tell you this, Caro, there's a couple of things for those who are following the case I'll try to be relatively brief. When I first heard about Judge Caro, the research was a lot of people who work in New York, if you're a defense attorney, and you got told, so the judges in your cases, right, are kind of randomly appointed. And so it's, it's luck of the draw on who your judge is going to be. And the famous saying in New York, in the district attorney, in the New York case is when you get Judge Caro assigned, the famous saying is, oh, bad draw, because Judge Caro tends to be more heavily leaning towards convictions as a prosecutor, as they often are former prosecutors. Having said that, Judge Caro did have a reputation of he has no tolerance for police misconduct and corruption. And so the judge wants a fair trial. If it was fair, he will be heavy-handed on the defendant when it comes time to, sentencing and all those things like that, or whatever the case may be. But he does seem to not tolerate or appreciate misconduct, and he's called out bad cops before. He's done things like that. So while it might be a quote-unquote bad draw, if you will, for a defense team to, oh, you got Caro, that's bad. That's bad news. It's bad draw. Like you said, there's evidence that he's a fair judge, and he's not going to put up with chicanery. That was a nice word from today's reading that we did. About police officers doing things that are not appropriate with the search and the seizure of the backpack and Miranda rights and failure to read Miranda rights and something like that. So it may come down that they're going to toss that evidence. So we'll see. All right. Do we have any last minute questions?
I just wanted to say one thing. Are we moving on to anything else or before we wrap up?
Anything? Yeah. Well, you want to finish anything?
Well, there was some interesting stuff that Candace put out today about the Erica Kirk interview. Okay. Erica Kirk has been doing the media rounds, and she was on Fox News, and she attacked Candace, not by name, but she clearly went after Candace. So it's the first time that she's done that. So, and Candace addressed it on her show, and it's pretty interesting for anybody who saw it. It's very telling, and I believe it opens up a new chapter in the narrative shaping of this case, of the Charlie Kirk assassination case.
Yeah, and that's good. It's good. I sorry that I interrupted with putting the picture up. Somebody asked who that book was earlier that they missed, and so I thought I could do it at the same time. And I was like, wait a minute, that's going to distract from what you're talking about, and I probably shouldn't have done that. But yeah, the Candace Owens. I saw something else. Remember what I sent you about Candace Owens? I don't know who said that today, if they had any credibility behind it. That Candace Owens was saying, what was that big thing I sent you a screenshot on? It was like crazy.
Hold on, I can pull it up.
That there was proof that it was a federal assassination, that the government, the CIA had assassinated him or something like that.
Yeah, hold on one sec. Let's back a little further. Yeah, it says, I don't know this person who posted it, but it says, breaking: Candace Owens claims U.S. military whistleblower just handed her proof that the Pentagon assassinated Charlie Kirk in a JFK-style hit involving foreign agents, paid actors, and decoy teams. It was a full military op with literal actors, as I always say.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't know this content creator.
I don't either, yeah.
JJ, did you
actors?
JJ, did you see the Brian Harpool interview?
With Sean Ryan, you mean?
With Sean Ryan, yeah.
Yeah, what'd you think of that?
Listen, Sean Ryan.
I was just curious what you thought of it.
I thought it was horseshit.
Yeah.
It was obvious, like the guy was prevaricating. He said a lot, and he said without saying anything.
Right. Yeah, right. And I did want to say, I made a promise to an individual that's on our show, and has been on the show and kind of has a love-hate relationship at times with our coverage of Charlie Kirk. And he did want to have me point out about that video that one of the discussions that came out with Harpole's discussion was about whether or not he should have cleared the rooftops and stuff like that and been looking for shooters on rooftops. And this person wanted to point out that security team in particular, Harpole, was close personal security. And it wasn't, he's not the person that would have cleared rooftops and all those things like that. That was one of his things that he wanted to say. Could you at least address that Harpole's role was close personal security, not the clearing of rooftops and things like that as well. But
it's interesting too. What he shows too. It's funny is that JJ, you said you saw the interview. I think he mentioned FOIA like 10 different times. He's like, oh, if you don't want to believe me, you guys should FOIA this, FOIA that. So he made a big thing. Like people are asking, like, what, who was responsible for, kind of guarding the area that would have been like, the stairway that led up to the roof where allegedly Tyler Rums went. And he showed a text message on screen. And he said, this is the text message. I'll give you a copy of it. And he's like, FOIA the chief. So apparently this, the chief of that county or whatever over there had, communication with him and said that he had it covered or whatnot.
Right.
Well, what Candace addressed that interview and what she showed receipts for is that he spoke to the police chief or whoever was campus security or whoever was in charge. And he said, talking about the area behind Charlie, up in that there was like that little landing, sort of like behind Charlie.
Yeah, the
Mhm.
walkway. Yeah, the breezeway.
He
or whatever,
said
the walkway.
he sent something to the police, the guy in charge of security there for the school or whatever, or whoever, whether it was local police or whoever was in charge, and said we would just need access to that area, and the police chief said, "You got it." Now, what Harpole tried to spin it as is that the police chief was supposed to have somebody covering that area. He tried to throw that guy under the bus. But that was not what the text messages showed. They just showed that he told the police chief, "We need access to that area." And he said, "You got it." So he was just talking.
I know.
Out his ass.
He was trying to take the blame off of anything that had to do with him or the security team.
Yeah, I mean, look, I mean, where do most security teams come from? Private security guys come from where? They come from the military.
Military.
So all of these ex-Navy SEALs and all these guys, a lot of them own private security companies, you know, and they have like tactical companies and things like that. So it's just, you can't really believe if it was a military operation, you know, and his team allegedly could have been in on it. Do you think they're going to admit that? They're not going to admit it. This is a major speculation, a major high level operation.
Yeah.
I thought it was interesting that he addressed the trapdoor thing and all that.
Yeah. Look, the way you do a tactic that's used in all these cases that we discuss is any alternative theory. They laugh about it. They joke about it. They marginalize it. Of course.
Right.
The power structure never addresses any of these concerns that a logical person would address, like as if the government never does evil shit. I mean, read a book, people, please.
Right.
Right. Yeah. And that, some of the time it's hard to check out sometimes the people who just, I don't want to insult people, but it's like they're not thinking clearly about how things work. I just sometimes I just fundamentally like, how do you not think through, again, like an example? Well, you know, obviously it can't happen because Xana got ordered food or whatever. You all you know is a text message or whatever came out or whatever. That doesn't mean proof of life. It doesn't mean what you think it means. Like, how do you not like understand that doesn't mean what you think it means? But anyways, all right, guys, I think that's been great for the night. Robin, if you have the link for the GoFundMe thing, maybe throw that up.
Absolutely.
I was trying to get it on my screen so I could show it again. But please consider, if you're watching the Idaho 4 case and you're interested. And by the way, let me pull up something real quick if you haven't seen it for a while. See if I can put this on screen for you. Remove, add. So this is my website, devilsadvocates.info. This is a page on here called Documents. On here, I'm tracking all of the documents, the certified public records requests, as well as FOIA requests that are on here, table after table. I'm also showing the money that we're spending on sending out those FOIA requests. And I'm also, if you see something in this column, this second to last column, that's responses. Again, in so far, Pullman, Washington, the city of Pullman has acknowledged that they are going to be preparing my files that I've asked for the shooting death of Brent Kopacka. They're preparing that for me now. Whitman County also is preparing the shooting documents for Brent Kopacka and related documents. Moscow Police Department has received 3 of my certified letters and acknowledged receipt of them, but they haven't given me a response on what they're going to do with it. They probably are just wiping their asses with it. Who knows? I don't know. We don't know that. That's not fair. I'm a jerk. I shouldn't have said that, actually. I shouldn't have said that. We don't know how they're going to respond. And let's give them the benefit of the doubt. Let's give them the benefit of the doubt. Honestly, it was not right for me to say that. They've received it. Let's hope. I'm just going to give them the benefit of the doubt they're going to respond. Now, the only reason why I caveated it is because the first time I asked for documents from them, they came back with an email that said, we need in excess of $20,000 to prepare your files, and we need $10,000 of it up front. So that to me is the equivalent of wipe your ass with that request. Hey, yeah, sure. Why don't you give me $10,000 right now, and then I'll let you know how much you owe me at the end of it. Yeah, it's not how that's going to work out. So I backed out of that, but now we're going a little bit more aggressive with that thing. So thanks everyone for coming. I realize as the night is wrapping up, it's been a long one. I've had a long day. I get to relax a little bit tomorrow with the premiere, so I don't have to do this whole thing. I can just be in there and engage with the chat. Hopefully I'll see you guys there watching that to support the numbers and the movement and all that. I think you're going to like the end of that show. There's some surprises at the end of that show that I think you're going to enjoy. So I hope that you'll check that out. And that's it for us, people. You guys have any last minute thoughts before saying goodnight?
I'll be watching tomorrow night, but I'll be back on Friday.
Here.
Back on Friday. Yeah, absolutely. Yep. All right, everybody. Have a great evening, and let's go fight for truth and justice and transparency and all that good shit. Take it easy.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.